Good afternoon, and the thumb, and in final control we have Tara. It's been a few days for me, but it's really good to be back. For those of you who might be new viewers, we are live, so those buffalo and warthog you've just seen, you are seeing the exact same time as us. We also are interactive, so you're able to answer us questions while we are out on drive, and you can do that by emailing us at questions@wildearth.tv, or if you're on Twitter, just use the hashtag #SafariLive. So we've heard there's been a lot of activity of leopards around in the area. No one's been lucky enough to find them, so hopefully our luck changes a little bit this afternoon. But other than that, great to have you all with us, and great to be back from my side. So we've got a few buffalo bulls behind us, and all the warthogs disappearing off into the bush. A male warthog. Oh, stopping and listening. So it's quite a balmy sort of beginning of winter's afternoon for us. It's 29 degrees Celsius, it's about 84 degrees Fahrenheit. The sun is up and there's not a cloud in the sky, and I'm very happy to be back on the bush and back on safari. So hopefully we can find you some animals. We're going to leave these two old gentlemen to keep doing what they do, resting up in the water, and we're going to make our way down towards this drainage line, which has been very productive over the past couple of months when it comes to cats.
Kirsty from DRC, departing for afternoon game drive.
Sorry guys, it's gonna
time probably near quarantine plane.
Jump on the radio. Copy, thanks very much. We're busy checking the drainage line around Gallagher shortcut towards Mvubu. We'll be heading towards Buffelshoek Dam. So I'm checking very carefully for tracks around here. Been quite a productive area for me since I've been here. Well, thanks everyone. Apparently lots of welcome backs. It's a great pleasure to be back, and I'm very excited to take you all on drive this afternoon on the Sunset Safari. And it might take me a few moments to get back in the swing, but I'm sure it shouldn't take too long. Barbara from Maryland, welcome on Sunset Safari. Barbara's just giving us an update from the Arathusa camp. She says there's been lots of warthogs and vervet monkeys. Thanks very much, Barbara. We might have to go there later if I get a bit desperate for spotted cats, but for now we're going to try work this area, see if we can find any tracks from during the day, and hopefully we can find some leopards. But in between the leopards, there's lots of wonderful stuff to look at, and lots of ID games to be had.
Yeah, very good afternoon, all stations. Well, afternoon. Gonna go to Solomon Spit, Solomon Spot Line. We will spend some time on some tracks, and then I'll move around.
Afternoon, Diana. Thanks very much. We work here. We've checked the drainage line near Gallagher, checked Mvubu, and we make our way through to Buffelshoek Dam.
Afternoon, copy. Good luck.
Sorry guys, so at the beginning of drive, quite a lot of chit chatter happens on the game drive radio, and that's all of us just sort of planning our afternoons so we don't all congregate and start looking in the same area, and that helps us, increases our chances of finding animals, because it is a team effort out here, so it makes a big difference for us to know where someone else has checked, that we don't have to go check it again. So that's why you might hear me, especially during the beginning of the drive, talk quite a little bit on the game drive radio. Jeez guys, you're putting the pressure on me already. I just heard there's quite a lot of banter going on about when I'm going to first find my first leopard, whether it's going to be the first hour of drive, the first second of drive. Well, fingers crossed. So I've actually changed my mind. For today we will only be doing grasses and trees. No leopards for anyone. No, I'm only joking. So guys, we're going to continue on here. We're going to cross over to Marcus so you can say hello and you can see what he's been up to, and we'll catch up with you a little later.
Good afternoon all. I'm reaching for my camera and I'm making a noise, and I'm trying so hard to be quiet. My name is Mark. VM is with me on camera. Welcome to Djuma this afternoon. Brent has already welcomed you all. And my chance to welcome Brent back from leave. Welcome dude. Nice to have you back. Scotty's gone off on leave and he's gone down to the Cape. I saw Scotty and Nikki leaving today and they're both dressed in wonderful summer shorts and sleeveless. And I know they're going to be landing in Cape Town and it's going to be awfully chilly and wet probably. That aside, welcome to Djuma this afternoon. This is my side of Djuma, and we're sitting at the old hyena den, and I know some of you who've been with us before will have been here too, and some of you new viewers might not know what is happening, but I'll get to that shortly. But this, before it disappears down a hole, because there's a good chance that it will when I lift my camera. We've been trying to control our movement because I don't want to disturb it. We so seldom get to see reptiles because they're so sensitive that to have one sunbathing like this is a pure gem. The rough-scaled plated lizard. And it's now in these dusty times with them in and out of this dusty hole in this termite mound that the dust collects between the scales and you see how rough the scales really are, and unfortunately we're at a pretty full zoom now, and I'm going to try and take a photograph and I'll put that on the Wild Earth page to try and get an idea of how rough the scales really are, but also a closer look at this particular character. You know, we have so often built the lives of some of the animals around us that are iconic animals of the African bushveld, but sometimes we forget that there are still some residents that, like the leopard and the lion, they have territories and we get the chance to see them on a regular basis, albeit for only a short period of time in their lives. Now the first time I saw this lizard, it was in a hole. You can't really see that hole. Hello. I haven't said hello properly. And welcome to the Jigger this afternoon. The vehicle is called the Jigger. I hope you're going to enjoy our afternoon with us. But I wanted to show you again this termite mound. We're at the old hyena den. I want to tell you why I came here in a bit. But I last saw it, there's a hole just there. I'm trying to do a Peter Pretorius move, but I'm not as well versed as he is in getting my finger to the right place. But just behind, there, see, I can't do it there. I'll move a bit and you'll see that hole. First saw them in that hole when the hyena were actually still using this den. So this lizard obviously doesn't really care for the hyena here, and it's managed to survive quite well with 3 growing little jawbones with those 3 cubs that were, actually there were 4 originally, and it's survived pretty well, being very vigilant. It's a hunter like any lizard, but it obviously can't wait for prey to come to it, so it sits at the mouth of its burrow like that. And any grasshopper or any insect or anything actually small enough that moves in the grasses below it, it will stalk like a cat and pounce and kill. And sometimes it can get quite violent, because most of the creatures that it's feeding on are what we call arthropods. They are the segmented creatures, the millipedes and the scorpions and the spiders and the insects, and it's very hard for a lot of things to digest that, very hard for a lot of things to eat that. So they've got to crunch it up, they can't tear pieces off, they can bite things, and to break pieces off they actually have to twist and turn and use their surroundings. I want to get a couple of photos and then we're going to move on. I came to the hyena den for another reason too. One of the reasons coming here was to see what animals perhaps utilize or come through the area when the hyenas are not here. And I've noticed buffalo tracks, quite a lot of buffalo tracks. There are elephant tracks on the little patch of ground that we're sitting on right now. And elephant came past here. There are a lot of kudu tracks. In fact, just to the right of the hyena den you can see an elephant bolus from a fairly fresh ball of dung, and I'm thinking that's probably that female that has a shortened trunk with the 2 calves that live with her. Quite hard to keep the camera steady with such a zoom. Now in the summer months we get a lot of millipedes that come out, and millipedes have a very important role to play in the environment because they eat a lot of rotting material that many other things won't eat. And there are not many things that can eat millipedes, and one of the reasons for that is because millipedes have a kind of a poison as a defense mechanism. They produce from all the plant matter that they eat, their bodies are able to produce this defensive liquid that is virtually cyanide based. And so there are not many things that eat them. One of the things that eat them are the civets. And I didn't know it until I saw it, because I have one of these lizards living at home under my fireplace and under my bird bath. Until one December a few years ago, actually I think it was the December after while we left Djuma the last time in 2011, I took video of it catching and killing a millipede, and that wasn't the first time. I saw it a lot after that. Let's go, let's hop aboard. Let's see what else we can find for you this afternoon. Djuma's given me a challenge. He's challenged me to find something interesting, something that brings us here and something that keeps us doing this job every single day on every road that we drive. So let's try that out. This was the beginning, so it doesn't count because this isn't a road. It's a cul-de-sac. Bye, lizard. Oh, it turned around and ran down into the hole. Did you see that? I think I shouted a little bit too loud. Lizards have ears, and they are very sensitive to sound. Well, you got to be. There must be so many things out there to catch a lizard. Sorry, lizard. It'll be out shortly. I've taken a couple of photographs. I hope they're going to be clear enough and sharp enough that I'll crop them a little bit to blow it up, and try through maybe VM or Brian's computer put it on Facebook, on the page, or on somehow. Hello Impala, what are you doing? Playing Ring of Roses with your mate on the termite mound. He's claiming his castle. I saw him, well, I saw another one running off, and I think he might have chased him. Not necessarily a dominant ram from a harem. Yeah, off he goes. Let's see, let's follow it. I was going to go down Rebecca's Road anyway. He's heading down Rebecca's Road. Let's see where he's going. See what he's doing. That's what we're here for. And maybe we'll find the other one. I would imagine that maybe they're just bachelors from a bachelor herd sorting out their differences rather than a dominant ram from a herd. Hyena tracks here going back up towards the den. I wonder if they were going to inspect it or just going past it on their normal day to day, or rather evening to evening, evening to morning. Foraging, hunting, marauding, scavenging, pillaging, killing. Any other adjectives for hyena? Not adjectives. What are those called? Nouns. Or verbs. What are the doing words? Verbs are the doing word. I love the English language, but I never put my head around nouns, words, adjectives, and verbs. Rebecca's Road. We are on Rebecca's Road. We've just come through this little dip that's just next to Philemon's dip, off of Philemon's cut line. So we've passed. I was in a completely different space all of a sudden. There was one thing I wanted to show you on this road, and I could pretend I meant to come up here to turn around because the light would be better if we faced the other way, but actually what it was is that I was out of the time zone for a minute, thinking about the the plated lizards. But I didn't tell you that much, that there's not only just the rough-scale plated lizard. There's also the giant plated lizard and the yellow-throated plated lizards, and there's even a tawny plated lizard. But the plated lizards, as much as they're all cousins, have decided that they're going to keep it civil. Instead of all trying to occupy the same sort of habitat, they decided that, well, I'll live on the rocks I'll live in the grassland and dig in the sand for a burrow. I'll live in termite mounds. And well, I'm a little bit smaller than you, so I can fit in some smaller crevices, so I'll live on the rock street. And that's how the four-plated lizards seem to have divided up their time. Actually, there might be more. I should bring my other reptiles up. I just want to pick something up. There seems to be some human debris. I think I've got most of the pieces. Sorry, I went out of view for a minute there. I had to, because I had to bend down to pick up some debris of a deceased item from the human world. But much like I have to teach you about the animal world, I'd have to teach the animals about this very dangerous item from the human world. And I'm actually very grateful that even though nobody's seen it, it was destroyed by a vehicle, so it exploded already, because it is in fact, no, it hasn't. There's still gas in here and there is still pressure. It's a lighter, it's a disposable lighter. It probably fell out of somebody's pocket. It's even got batteries in it. Wow. Oh, that's because there's a light. Oh, look, the light even works. A testament to good LED technology. Can you see a little red glow in there? I don't think so. It's too small. I'll try it when it gets dark. But the igniter, that's history. They're making a noise on the mic. No. Okay, well, I've got to find some way to put all of this that I can dispose of it properly. It's not an intentional thing. We're on the road. There are bumps here. There must have been a guest sitting high up on one of the vehicles, fallen out of the pocket unintentionally. I'm going to wrap it up in paper and dispose of it. And in the meantime, we're going to go over to Brent. We're going to catch up with what Brent's doing on the other side of Djuma. I'll see you after this.
Welcome back, guys. What's happening at the moment, we've arrived at Buffelshoek Dam. Unfortunately, we haven't found any tracks yet, but we do have 3 male Inyala in these thickets here. I'm just going to try and move to get Brian in a better position. But they are sort of semi-displaying just because they're so close to each other. Can't see any females in estrus, but we should be able to get a view of that, the crests, on 2 of them at least. There we go. There's one through there. It's a little bit difficult. Oh, there we go. Very thick, a little thicket here. I'll move a little bit more forward. I think there's one nice out in the open. If we get into the gap here. There we go. There we go. A nice male in yellow wearing his orange socks. Just hang on, guys. Standing by. Sorry, last station, go again.
Thanks, Brent. Just doing a radio check.
Copy, no problem. Sorry about that, guys. So you can see, browsing. One of the reasons Inyala can be quite a successful species during the drier parts of the month is that they're quite a bit taller than some of the other browsers, and they're able to graze a trophic level higher than an animal, for example, like bushbuck. So he's eating a spike thorn and then swapping across over to a buffalo thorn. Disappearing from sight. Looks like they might pop up the other side of this thicket, so let's just drive around. Other than that, Buffelshoek Dam is quite quiet at the moment, but we will keep checking. So I got a question for you guys out there. So, I don't know, it's a long shot. Did you see it, Brian? I did. Okay guys, hopefully it doesn't move. It is a long shot. There we go, nice, Brian. There's a little animal disappearing there, and I think that actually can be the first question. I know it wasn't the best view and it was quite brief. Nice quick work there, Brian. But who can tell me what animal that was that just disappeared off into the thicket? So who can tell me which animal that was? And you can do that by sending us an email at questions@wildearth.tv, or you can just use the hashtag SafariLive if you're on Twitter. So then, yeah, that looked like they're being a bit more kind, moving out into a bit more of an open area. I'm just going to scoot around. Oh, and there's some kudu here as well. There's young kudu. So we got two of the spiral horned antelope family here at the moment. Not a good sign if you're looking for leopards. Both of them excellent eyesight and really good at spotting leopards. There's a little one at Brian's in there having a good drink. Oh, quite an aggressive drink. Mom, I'm thirsty. Not winning. Mom's parked in the bush, making it a little bit difficult for the youngster to feed. Judging from the size of that youngster, it's probably going to be quite close to weaning age now. And you probably find there's not that much milk coming out, and hence the aggression. See how long it takes before Mom gets quite annoyed. You can see Mum sort of giving a little bit of a reprimand there, trying to move away. So just try and move forward a bit. There we go, a little headbutt by the mum. Sent the little one scurrying. Let's have a look. You can see moving off slightly into the bush. Oh, we've got another one on the left, chap. A bit more open. Such graceful animals. His huge ears, just listening for potential threats. Oh, there's another one. Oh, also smelling. I decided we're not really a threat. quite a few kudu around here. Just gonna go just back into the gap. Back a little bit. There we go, and Nyala's moved us into the open. See, and as soon as that other male starts working, they can't really help themselves. That crest erects a little bit, and that's quite an interesting sort of evolutionary development Nyala have to avoid physical confrontations and fighting. They sort of have a beauty pageant against each other, and whoever's the prettiest wins. But a non-territorial animal like kudu, both of them. So the only time they're really in competition is when there's a female and estrus. And that their colouring being so different from the females is one of those adaptations. There's kudu and Nyala here at Buffelshoek Dam. There we go. Cousins. But as I was saying about the Nyala's colouring, the females look completely different, and the males have this dark chocolate brown with this white mane, with his females almost all an orange. They do share the stripes. But the reason for that is the reason for the sexual dimorphism is because the Nyala males have adapted this way that they'll rather have a beauty competition than actually physically lock horns. It's not to say they don't or won't lock horns. They will sort of use that as their last resort. But we'll leave the spiral horned antelope to continue on, and we're going to go check towards our eastern boundary and see if we can find any tracks. So, lots of people said it was a mongoose, but that's not what I asked. I said, what exact animal is it? So, yes, it's a mongoose, but which mongoose was it? So, if you guys missed that a little bit earlier, we had a very brief view of a mongoose, and I'd like to know which mongoose. And if you know which mongoose it was we saw a little earlier, you can send your answers to questions at WildEarthTV, or you can use the hashtag SafariLive if you're on Twitter. Well done, Jacqueline, Joanne and Kathy, as well as lots of other people who got it correct. It was a slender mongoose. Well done, guys. Guys, we're going to continue looking for tracks. We're going to cross back to Mark for a bit, and we'll catch up with you a little later.
Welcome back, everyone, and I actually haven't travelled very far because we wanted to cross over to Brent. It sounds like you've had a really nice sighting of both kudu and nyala. So often we get questions about what is the difference between kudu and nyala, and well, there you have it. Sounds like you had them all together, and it's not often that we manage to be able to accomplish that. In the interim, I've found something. We turned onto Rebecca's Road initially because there were impala running this way, and if there's ever a signal to take a road, then that was it. And so acting on VM's challenge for me this afternoon, I decided to take Rebecca's Road following the impala's lead. And the first thing I thought of coming onto Rebecca's Road was, wait a second, there's some very interesting plants on this road. And one of the most interesting plants, and one of the best examples that I can show you, is the tree orchid. And so this is my flower for the day, my flower for the ladies for the day. And unfortunately, timing isn't that great because, well, it's an orchid. It's not flowering. It flowers when it wants to. And it's normally around September, October, early spring. Sometimes you might get them flowering a second time going into December, but generally it's sort of the early part of just after the equinox, when the sun starts coming back to the southern hemisphere and everything can rejoice because we're getting rid of that cold weather that's been here. That's when they flower. This is a relatively new plant. If I remember correctly, when I was last here a few years ago, this was still a living knobthorn tree, and I think at some point in time elephants must have ring barked it. And if we go down the bark, then we'll show you how lower down from the ground up, from about there, that's got to be at least 8-9 feet high, going down to the ground, we've got almost no bark at all. And my guess is what killed this tree was possibly elephants ring barking. It's not an unusual thing. Elephants do that because they know how to farm, they know how to feed the soil, they know how to make sure that the plants that they need for their own survival will continue to grow through endless time. And to do that, they need a lot of dead wood on the ground, and they need the trees that are not providing very much nutrition for everything else and are only extracting water and nutrients from the soil, how that wood needs to be broken down and returned to the soil. So apart from the fact that they might use the bark medicinally, I know that there is an intentional reason behind ring barking certain trees when it comes to elephant. Anyways, we're going off subject. I was asked, I think this morning, it could have been yesterday, I can't remember, because for me, my mind shuts down after drive, and until I come on drive again, I'm sort of back in gear in what we're doing out here. Somebody asked me about shelf fungus. And if it was you, I'd really encourage you to just send a tweet maybe to #SafariLive, or a question to, not a question, but an email to questions@WildEarthTV. Those are the mediums that we can communicate with each other. That's how we can interact. And that's actually mostly what this is all about, is interacting with each other. So these are some bracket fungi, and I'm not too sure which bracket fungi there are. I'm going to show you something in the book quickly, and my guess is it is a fungi that's known as the thin cap honeycomb bracket. And I know that it is a honeycomb bracket because I'm very familiar with it. I have broken down knobthorns right next to my house from elephants, and I've seen the same bracket fungi on those knobthorns. Bracket fungi tend to be very species specific to a large degree, and I think it's one of them, whatever the correct word is. This is they. And I think it's the hexagona. It's not an edible fungus, but it's a very hard woody thing that grows out of wood, and all of the bracket fungi are. Unfortunately, this one of the best mushroom books that I've got in South Africa. I think it mostly deals with a lot of the alien trees that you find around suburban gardens, things like oaks and poplars and eucalyptus and pines. And in the pine forest alone, there are a host of fungi that it would take you a lifetime to discover, just the fungi that grow under the pine forest. They're aren't even indigenous to us here in South Africa. So there's not great mention in this book on what grows on indigenous trees, and I'm still battling to find anything. However, I just want to go back to the orchid. This is an orchid that has got a really beautiful flower. I've chosen 2 books that I can show you in time. It is not a parasite. If you notice very closely, as Vim is zooming into the orchid, you'll notice that it is actually living almost between the old bark, and this is definitely before or rather long after the tree died, but while it's decomposing. This orchid managed to take hold, and it's growing between the old bark and the dead trunk, or the dead branch of the knobthorn. And it is more an epiphyte, it's more feeding on the dead wood cells as they break down and as moisture occurs in the environment. Very healthy plant. And for those of you who've been with us for a long time, you might remember another orchid. Oh, there's a lizard on that trunk on the right, going up, where the elephants have stripped the bark where the bracket fungus is. My second lizard for the afternoon. That's a baby. It's a baby common striped skink. Used to be known as Mabuya striata, but I know they've changed the Mabuya genus. They've changed it to something else. Can't remember the new name, but there it goes, behind the bark. I can't imagine what things live behind that bark. So, it's time to move on. I want to show you the parent of this orchid. This is the leopard tree orchid, and here's a picture of the flower. I'm going to show you one. Down here is one of the 2 subspecies that occur here, and we get both subspecies here. This is the lesser of the 2, the smaller variety of the 2, if I remember correctly. And I'm open to suggestion. I know that there's some of you viewers out there that have photographed this orchid on Rebecca's Road before, because I've shown it to you with its flowers. Can't remember if this was Gigantea or the other one was Gigantea, but both of them are the tree orchid. One is the tiger, one is the leopard. One has spots on its flowers and one doesn't. And other than the photo in that flower book, the only other thing that I can show you is a really beautiful painting by Anita Fabian of the leopard orchid with the spots on it. I've got some really nice photographs of them flowering on my Facebook page. But a really beautiful rendition in Anita Fabian's book, The Wildflowers of Northern South Africa. Some of you also asked if I remember the name of that orchid that I found at home just this summer, and it's probably one of the most amazing discoveries I've had in terms of flowers and the botanical world, because for me I can find a new insect or a new something in every aspect of the world or the natural world. And I found this orchid at home in 40 years. I've never seen it there before. I don't think anybody has ever seen it in that part of the Timbavati, and it's been hard trying to remember the name, because normally I would retain that info, but I've just been reminded now because there's a similar orchid on the same page, and it was a Eulophia species, E-U-L-O-P-H-I-A, Eulophia. This is the orchid that I had at home. Anyways, we're going to go back up Rebecca's Road, and I'm just going to go past the adult, or rather what I think is the parent of this orchid. This orchid was not here. I don't recall it being here in 2011 when we left. In those days of our last wildlife, or rather Wild Earth broadcasts, this was the orchid that was in the fork of this knobthorn. Also ring barked by elephants, because it was probably close to the knobthorn behind it. elephants felt they didn't need two next to each other, and they need the wood of this one to feed the old one. But all that's left is that tiny little bit of green coming out from this side of it. Most of this orchid died off, and this is where we used to actually see those flowers. Sometimes they would have to wait for the afternoon drive to show it to you viewers. From the back, all there is actually, Liam said, oh, there's a bird's nest, and I thought, yeah, well, it does kind of look like that. But if you remember correctly, in summer there was actually a green grass growing, and that's now that very clump of grass that has died, growing just in the debris of the orchid that is clinging on to dear life. Sorry, time to go. Ooh. Mind the tree. Michigan. Lynn wants to know if, well, Lynn is saying that she paints these mushrooms that grow on trees. It's nice to hear from you, Lynn. You probably know a lot more about mushrooms than I do. And the fungi, the bracket fungi. Wants to know if we call it the same as you do over there in Michigan. You call them conches? Or maybe you need to spell that for me, Lynn. But no, I've never heard that term. Streptopetala. Hello, Georgianne. Yes, my orchid. Thank you, Georgianne, reminding me that my orchid was Eulophia streptopetala. Streptopetala, obviously something about the petals. Could it be striped? Streptopetala. You know, I've got a dictionary of plant names. Unfortunately, it's not here. I grabbed my box of books and I left most of the other 2 bags of books that I originally had here. I had to leave them behind because I didn't know something about the explanation of plant names. And tell me what streptopetala means. Thank you very much. Eulophia streptopetala seems to be the name of the orchid. From all the feedback that I've got on Facebook after posting that picture of that orchid, I think, and I've been on Plants Africa, I've been on Orchid Society of South Africa's website, I've had quite a good look. I think it could be. I think that possibly because it is probably so far out of its range, I'm thinking that it is. That it doesn't maybe grow as robust and as bright as it would. And I know for a fact if I had to find you a flower now, which I'm desperately trying to do, I've just seen a flower, but it's like that orchid. I can show you the plant, but I can't show you the flower because it just isn't there. There's that little finger thing on the ground. Yes, exactly there. Starting to get very pale and yellow, and when they start doing that, no matter how much rain we have, we don't get them flowering again. It's the lion's eye or roadside pimpernel, what I know as the Trichocereus longipedunculata. It's an easy name to remember because I remember what it means. I remember what it refers to. And the flower itself is on a long peduncle, so longi pedunculata is easy to remember. The Trichocereus bit was a bit more difficult, trying to understand where that translates to a 3-chambered ovary. Trichocereus, 3-chambered ovary. Eulofia streptopetula. I could probably find out what Eulofia means if I look at my flower book. I'll do that next time I've got a moment on my hand to stop and look at my book. Does that count for Rebecca's Road?
Yes.
Something interesting. Okay, so where should we go now? We've got Zoe's, some people call it Rebecca's, going down to Philemon's Cut Line. Straight ahead we go to Impala Plains. To the right is Zoe's Road that goes back towards Quarantine. Well, the jigger has chosen. The jigger has chosen. We're going down Zoe's. Shall we see what happens at a hyena den on a warm afternoon? We're at about 80 odd Fahrenheit, 80, I don't know. We're in the late 20s, we're in about 25 degrees, 24, 25, maybe 26 degrees Celsius. My real feel. Comfortable. Look at that piece of wood there that looks like it's laughing. Happy Cub in Pennsylvania. Happy Cub was asking about porcupines and whether porcupines can be seen during the day or whether they are nocturnal. Happy Cub, I hope you like that happy piece of wood. Happy Cub wants to know about porcupines. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever seen a porcupine during the day, other than in captivity. Fortunately, that's only ever happened maybe twice. I'm not a fan of seeing animals in captivity, and if I can avoid places where they are, I will at all costs, because I feel those broken hearts of those poor animals. There's a den over there. Cubs out of there once, and that was Shivambalana and Shivinzi. Now, that would be a place where a porcupine would eventually modify that burrow for its own den, and they would do the same for old hyena dens or warthog burrows, or in fact, to be honest, porcupines are better diggers than hyenas and warthogs and all of the rest. Well, not an art farm, but porcupines are pretty good diggers. I can remember seeing a porcupine burrow just in the soft sand substrate of the well, not floodplains, but around the dams and the lakes of the 5 lakes of the Sulu lake system on the Rufiji River. And when I was at the bottom of it, it was above my head, so it was at least a 6-foot deep burrow before the entrance, and well, only the porcupine knew what existed beyond there, because, well, you don't really go into porcupine burrows, especially if you know they're in there, because they tend to go in forwards and they leave all their quills sticking out backwards, and all they have to do is reverse into what would essentially be your face if you were to go down a burrow, because all you could fit in there would be your front, and you wouldn't really go in feet first, because then you couldn't see where you're putting your feet. Anyway, I'd unfortunately porcupine are so predominantly nocturnal that we hardly ever get to see them, and maybe one day we're going to be lucky. I think tonight, having mentioned porcupines, I want to do that one road from Impala Plains to Sandy Patch, because there's been a lot of porcupine dung and tracks on that road, so maybe we'll get lucky. I can see one hyena. I was hoping that maybe others would be out. Who knows? We'll see shortly. Sorry, hyena, I'm sorry to have got you up. You can lie down again. I'm really sorry, girl. Are you babysitting today? Graham in Ohio. Streptopetala does indeed mean stripe-petaled. The stripe-petaled Eulofia. And well, yeah, it's makes sense. Striped petal. This is it for the hyena den this afternoon. I'm not going to sit here for much longer. I have already disturbed her. I'm really sorry. No, don't do that to me, Jigger. Now I'm too scared to press any buttons. Right, that's a good button to press. Maybe later. I thought it might be interesting just coming down here because it's a hot afternoon, and possible that with the shade that they have, especially here on the eastern side of the termite mound with a really warm sun, that might, and the den side, the actual entrance to the den is actually on the western side, so there must be a lot of hot sun pouring into the den at the moment. I thought maybe they might just be a little bit restless inside the den to come outside and lie. Well, maybe what female is. I think it's female. I'm sorry to make a noise. Every now and then the jigger does this to me. Changes the sequence that I have to press this button. I'm wondering if that sounds familiar to anyone. Okay, I think we're gonna, while I'm getting out of this hyena den site, I think I'll cross over to Brent, and I'll see you a little bit later. I'll see what else I can find for you, because I'm going to find something on Zoe's road now, I think.
Welcome back, everyone. Oh, come back here. Well, I know we have a look there. There's a little dwarf mongoose, one of my favorite little carnivores, just checking us out from the safety of a bush willow stump. So as we were driving, I just heard that tiny little contact call in the grass next to us. I'm going to ask who can tell me what the original collective noun for mongoose is. You can send your answers to questions@WildEarthTV, or you can just use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. If there are any people who might be new to Wild Earth out there, we are live. You are seeing this at the exact same time as us. So wherever you may be sitting in the world, you are watching a dwarf mongoose in a bush willow stump in the middle of the African bushveld. Oh, where'd you go? Wonderful little social carnivores. Average group in this area is probably about 15, and they'll be spread out through all the different dry grass and bushes around us. And they'll use vantage points like this to check for predators from a safety point of view. I can hear them scuttling in the grass around, feeding. This will be one of the sentries, so he'll be on the lookout for birds, because that is probably the most dangerous thing for a dwarf mongoose, is predatory birds. Ever vigilant. Checking the skies, checking around. So they have numerous bolt holes within their territory. Oh, has he spotted something up above? Can you see? Doesn't look like it. Looks like he's just making sure there's no birds of prey around. It's at quiet times like this that quite often lead us to other predators, because we're sitting quietly and we might hear alarm calls of other animals. So if he were to give it a distress call, it would send all the other little dwarf mongooses scuttling for protection, either under the ground or under bushes or in dead logs like this one. The others aren't in really a good spot to see them. They're spread out quite far, probably about 20 to 30 meters around from there. Hi Virginia, welcome on Sunset Safari. Virginia would like to know where dwarf mongoose get their water from. Well, Virginia, they will drink out of puddles and that where available. They also are able to get a lot of water from dew in the early morning and from the animals that they prey on. Well done, Joanne, Virginia, and 30 Minutes Fitness. They got the answer I just, the question I just asked correct, and the question was, oh, there's another one. The question I just asked was, what is the original collective noun for mongoose? And it is a business. So now we've got two members of the business checking us out. Hi, Cindy from Tennessee. Oh, one. Cindy would like to know, what is the primary prey species of mongoose? Do they really eat snakes? They will definitely eat snakes, Cindy. These guys probably not the biggest snakes in the world, but they will mob small cobras or small mambas even. But their primary food source is arthropods, so insects, millipedes, out of the insect family, grasshoppers, beetles, dung beetle, larval, and the larval phases of a lot of insects as well as small other small mammals, mice, especially baby mice if they can find them in nests. Hi, Rosie B. Rosie B would like to know, how do you tell the difference between a male and female? With great difficulty, Rosie. We'd have to get a much better view than we're getting at the moment. With a lot of these species, the male will be slightly bigger, but very, very difficult to see the way we see them. And we'd have to look for testes and that, but as again, quite often the glimpses we have are hiding in logs and that. So the best place to maybe sex a mongoose would be at their den in the early morning when they're sort of basking in the sun, and you'll be able to see a bit more of their body. Well, we'll let these guys continue on for their forage. They'll probably at this time of the afternoon be quite close to their den. They'll probably be making their way towards the den in the next half an hour to 45 minutes. Then they'll spend a little bit of time before going down, sort of socializing and grooming around the edge of the den before bedding down at night to the safety of their dens. Well, thanks, little guys. Whoa, excuse me. Thank you, Guys, got a bit of a runny nose, but nothing too serious. Still on the hunt for a possible leopard. So you guys put on so much pressure that there was no ways we're going to find it in the first hour. It would have been too easy, made me look too good, so we're going to make you guys wait a little bit longer. Hi, Joe from Wales. Joe's asked me quite an interesting question. Where does the name mongoose come from? Does it have a meaning? Joe, I'm not sure, but I think I sort of can vaguely in my subconscious remember something. It comes from a Greek word, but I will double check, but I'm not 100% sure. Really good question, Joe. Where does the word mongoose come from? Yeah, so I just wanted to loop through again, see if there's possibly any tracks on top of this morning's game drives. And we will check. There we go, that for you, Joe. 464. Check carefully around here. in the meantime, we got another question from Jean in North Carolina. Jean would like to. It doesn't look like the mongoose blink their eyes. Do they blink? They do, Jean, but no, they don't need to blink as frequently as us. Okay, here we go. I think I'm in the right spot. Okay. There we go. Click on them. Oh, no, I'm a bit ahead. Need to get to that. Mongooses. Give me 1 second here. I think I'm in the right spot. Quite easy. I didn't seem to be able to find where the name mongoose came from. So, I don't know, maybe you guys have access to all that amazing information out there in the world. So, obviously, it could take me quite a while to sift through a big book like that. So why don't you guys check for me? Where does the word mongoose originally come from? And please let me know what the answer is by sending the email to questions@WildEarthTV or using the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Kim from Minnesota. Kim would like to know what's the difference between a slender and a dwarf mongoose, or are they just the same thing? Well, Kim, no, they're completely different. Dwarf mongoose is a social mongoose species. They live in businesses. There can be up to 30 in a group of dwarf mongoose, but normally about 8 to 15. And slender mongoose are solitary, so they hunt by themselves. And they are quite a lot bigger.
Anybody copy me?
Sorry guys, radio. Standing by.
Good afternoon. Can I have a radio check, please?
Reading you 5-5.
Is it speaking?
Brent from Wild Earth. Then a dwarf mongoose. Dwarf mongoose, as I said, are the smallest of all the carnivores. Let's see if I find you a picture of them now.
What's your
Yes.
Lee, come back.
Watch your spot, Brian.
Yeah, I never left. I'm still here.
Lee, what's your lock?
Yeah, I'm an Impala driver.
Okay, good stuff. Glad you're copying me now.
It's always good to stop and listen as well. So we got a picture of a slender mongoose here, which is number 4. See, it's orange with a very distinct black tip to the tail, a much more elongated body than a dwarf mongoose, and then the dwarf mongoose is just around the corner. Where is he now? Not that one. Must be the other way. Oh, big book. I'll find him now. But apparently we have an answer to the question. Well done, Dylan from Iowa. Said it comes from the, I'm just waiting for the language, Marathi language. From the sort of India, Asia area, pronounced mongoose or mongoose, and that would make sense. I mean, if you think about probably the world's most famous
We're just coming onto a main road, one of the main access roads of Vietnam. It's a road known as Triple M. Comes in from the gate and heads south, a little bit further south from where we are right now. It splits up and it turns into Gowrie Main. This is now the Djuma western boundary road, and on the western side of this road, on my right hand side, is actually Arathusa. On this side is Djuma. And we've come this way. I was going to, I had stopped and I was at a flower because I suppose since we were at flowers this afternoon and unfortunately they're not flowering, I thought I would show you what the plants look like when they're not flowering. So I'm hoping that I can still find it for you because I've got all my books open at the right pages to show you visuals of those things, and I've no doubt that I'll find some more. I want to turn this road coming up now, going into Arathusa. I want to go towards Arathusa Waterhole, towards the Arathusa Dam. It's a lovely big dam. I'm confident that we might actually find something around there this afternoon. So I'm kind of one road down because there was another vehicle coming on the road where I was stopped with a flower or a non-flower, a plant that was not flowering, and decided to move on because I don't really want to be disturbed by another vehicle coming by and my train of thought being interrupted, and well, it'll just detract from the whole experience. So keeping up with the challenge this afternoon, finding something interesting on each road we travel. What can I find for you now? I'm going to have to find two things now. I've got to find the hibiscus, because this is a dwarf hibiscus that is flowering. It's interesting in that it is, well, it's got a little story to tell, as does almost everything out here. We've got two lizards this afternoon. Let's see if we can find a third reptile. We've got a lovely warm afternoon. Been so atypical of this early part of winter, and that it started off cold and grey. Well, it wasn't too cold, but it was grey and overcast. And the sun burnt it away, and it's blue skies and sunshine. And with a lot of dust and a lot of smoke in the air, I expect it's going to be a lovely red sunset. It's one thing that I can almost guarantee in our winter months are lovely deep red sunsets. The dustier it gets and the more smoke it gets into the atmosphere. I know it's not a good thing, and it's not a lot of smoke, but it is the reality of being in Africa. It's not smog like you would get in a city because it's not composed or charcoal. And if we look at the air here, it's lovely and clean, but of course when we look in the distance closer to the villages and the cities and the towns, it gets a little bit dense. But that very light, or rather that very interference in the atmosphere, causes the redness that we see for sunset. That's because it filters out all the other colors from the spectrum, and all we really see is the red from the spectrum, and that's why the sun goes that lovely deep red color. Fine. Hello. Eagle feather in my hat? No, it is not an eagle feather. It is a feather I just found. It is a symbolic feather more than anything else. It is symbolic because I read something today that was quite shocking, and I decided to put this feather in my hat to make a statement. It's not political, it's not that. It is. There's a young lady who wants to graduate in the US somewhere. I've forgotten where. She wants to graduate. She's Native American, and the culture and the tradition and everything that I understand about that, to have a feather for that ceremony would be quite momentous. And yet, it sounds like she's not allowed to even carry a feather in her cap, even though it would be a feather in her cap to be graduating in the first place. So I'm wearing that feather for her. Sadly not an eagle feather, because I think an eagle feather would probably be more appropriate. A really beautiful dead tree here called a leadwood. Now the leadwood tree is very appropriately named, very apt. Because the wood is so dense that it sinks. It is one of the heaviest woods you can ever get, and it is so dense as a wood that it doesn't rot. It is impervious to fungi and wood borer insects. It is so dense that it can only weather away in time. And so this particular tree has probably been dead for a considerable amount of time. It's probably well over 3 feet at the base. It wasn't a very big tree to begin with. We can see there, just before you carry on up, that big bulge that you can see there would have been, probably in its half-life, would have been pushed over by an elephant, because you can see that almost looks like a branch that is coming out at this angle. But my guess is that it would have maybe even been a branch broken by an elephant 500 years ago, or 800 years ago, or even longer. And that the tree itself then recovered and grew up around that broken branch. I've heard a very interesting theory recently that there's evidence that there was a severe drought around 600 years ago in this part of the world, and that it killed off almost every single tree. And that the dead leadwoods that we see, no matter how old they are, have been dead for that length of time, because they can only weather in time. And I can quite believe it. If we look at that dead tree to the left, there's a knobthorn that was stripped of its bark some years ago. Could be anything up to 10 years ago even. and it has lost all. It has now gotten to the stage it's lost all of its bark. Slowly but surely, the wood borers that live in it and the termites that are going to act on it, and the weather and the rain and the wind, it is a far more brittle wood, although it's quite dense, than the leadwood. In a couple of years' time, that will be gone. In fact, there are probably generations of knobthorns that have grown and died in the time that this tree has died, let alone lived. Just to the back of the leadwood, in the background, is another living knobthorn that I'm guessing is about the same age as the dead one in the background. And maybe the elephants decided to spare this one. They just wanted to make sure that the other one, plus one that is lying horizontal, you can see between the two trees at the back there, pushed over, that's all going to feed the soil for all of these trees to still grow. But the dead leadwoods that exist from here all the way up through to the northern part of Kruger, going into the southern part of Kruger, I remember a dead leadwood down in the Sabi Sands, the southern part of the Sabi Sands, what is now, wrong button, what is now Lion Sands. There was a dead leadwood that probably had a girth 3 times the size of that, but I'm guessing it's probably around about the same age that it died, and it's just over the last centuries or so that it has just weathered away. At home there's a dead tree. I've got a dead tree on our east or on our western boundary that I call my sunset tree. I've taken photographs of that tree for 30-40 years now. It is a magnificent tree that also probably, I think it's a jackalberry. I'm pretty convinced it's a jackalberry. But for it to survive that long standing is a miracle. But that is because it's a very dry climate, and without the humidity that you have here in the Sabi Sand, you don't get the fungi, especially that kind of bracket fungi that will leach into the wood, all of its roots. That's where it draws nutrients from, soften the hardwood. But this jackalberry has been standing. It hasn't changed, or it's hardly changed at all in the 40 years that I've known it. And it's still my sunset tree. It'll be my sunset tree till I'm old and gone, and it'll probably still stand long after that. In the Manyaleti, I used to do walks in the Manyaleti 20 years ago. In the late, in fact it was 95, because in 96 I ended up going overseas, but in 95 I was doing walks, 94, 95, somewhere around there. Being part of the environment, walking through the same habitat that has been unchanged to a large degree since those giant trees died, and knowing that elephants' life cycles and generations of trees of elephants have lived and grown and died and returned to the soil in the single generation of that group of leadwoods that are these giants that have died at one particular point, because something catastrophic must have killed all the old leadwoods all the way down south. There's a lovely boerbean. No, it's not a boerbean, it's an ivory. Really pretty tree. Go back a little bit. They're starting to get yellow. And I'm looking at the size of the tree and how high it's growing on top of the termite mound, and I'm looking at the termite mound with a guarri bush growing on it as well. And I'm thinking that this tree grew after the termite mound began, and the tree is a few hundred years old. All that's growing into the guarri bush. But if we zoom out, you can see the base of it even extends beyond the right side of the road. I should hug that tree. Or will. I will. Blessings. Grow and prosper. Today we're just wandering. We are wandering around looking for things to talk about. I'm not going to follow track because we spent so much time following tracks fruitlessly for the last couple of days, and it's not because our tracking ability is questionable, but they're just leaving our properties. I need to find something else interesting. In fact, I've still got to find another hibiscus, because I've got all the books open to tell you a whole story about them. And in the interim, we're going to cross over to Brent, and I'll see you in a short while.
Welcome back, guys. Just stand by. I'm on the Game Drive radio. I'll be with you in a second.
People are not hearing me at all. Have you guys picked up anything this afternoon? Lex, I've just come back from Chile Plain side. We got Timor from Khan. There's a couple of giraffes all around the open area. Okay, great copy. Thank you very much. And what are the Scriptron doing?
Been listening to the updates on the radio, and I'll be back with you in a second.
One station there at the moment, running right from overseas, is making it blow that fast. Okay, what else you found this morning? Lex, I'm going to be honest, I've spent a lot of time in the north, having troubles with the radio. I seem to have bad problems with Albury and even struggling to copy Scotland. As far as I know, it was quiet. There was a couple of tracks of Madola Igwe crossing into Portswood from Pump Road, I think it was. But otherwise, it was pretty quiet.
Sorry guys, lots of chat on the radio.
Okay, copy. Thanks very much. I'll see where I'm going with me. Alright, copy. Which camp are you driving from?
We've got some fresh leopard tracks here, guys. Just
from Taylor. Okay,
let's try and show them to you while I'm on the radio.
Head over to those Madora Skunkies if you want. It's a little bit of a drive, but it's it was nice. I
You see them there? So that's good sign.
Thank you. We'll think about that.
Lex, are you copying me?
Yes, I'm copying you.
Afternoon, Lex. I wasn't out this morning, but as far as I know, very, very quiet. There was trucks on Madoda Ingwe crossing at Guarri Pan or Mvubu into Torchwood. I've now just got trucks off of Mafazi Ingwe heading south on Cheetah Cut Line, probably about 100 meters from Gowrie Main. I'm going to be following up on these trucks for now.
Great copy. Thanks so much.
Okay, so this is exciting, guys. The only one slightly unexciting thing is that these leopard tracks are very, very close to our boundary. We can actually see it in the distance. So I'm going to be hoping, fingers crossed, standing by, that she is still walking up.
Yeah, I was trying to copy the way you said it for the English console.
Cheetah cut line heading south, probably 200 meters, or not even 100 meters from to the north of Curry, Maine. They have been walked over by looks like combat, but sometime during the day.
Alright, copy. Do you want me to make my way into the area and see if I can try those console for you?
Copy, yeah, you're more than welcome. Unfortunately, I think they are going to cross into Hoffman's at the moment.
Alright, copy. I'm just coming straight.
So the tracks are still here, guys, but unfortunately we are getting a bit closer to our boundary, but there's also hyena tracks around. I don't see her tracks now, all I see is the hyena tracks. So we're going to keep a very careful lookout. So what we're going to do is we're going to check on the boundary, we're going to check down the boundary a little bit, and then there's an old road that cuts in towards an old hyena den to the west of us. We're going to check that next. I'm still not seeing any tracks here, but we will check very carefully now.
Just to give
There, that's a good sign.
There's a big road